Greetings, programs. This is Wretch. Welcome back to Supposedly Wonderful Future. And we are still in the middle of our question and answer session with the supposed creator of the universe, guys. I'm very interested to see where this is going to go. My curiosity is definitely piqued. Let's go ahead and keep asking some questions and see what answers we get. If you could create anything, why make so much pain, suffering, and death? I didn't exactly make it myself. I just allowed you folks to do it, and that's simply a consequence of having free will. The only alternative I know is to add a lot of limitations or micromanage every little thing, which is boring. Surely free will can exist with less blood. Why not make human nature less violent? Because I couldn't just remove violence and still make you the humans you are. You have to realize that humanity's dark side often stems from the same source as humanity's bright side. Same nature that allows you to achieve great things can make you do horrible things under different circumstances. Hey, I'm referencing a popular movie of yours. That's cool, right? Oh wait, it was the light side, not the bright side. Never mind. Oh, he's got Star Wars knowledge. Can't be all bad. Still, why make pain and death at all? Why not make us immortal? I think I simply had no idea how. Not even technically, but mentally. I mean, tempting concept as it is, true immortality is just too foreign for me to try. I'm influenced by my own life, where the end is possible and unpredictable. Despite this, and sometimes because of this, my life is cool. I wanted to make your life cool too, so I recreated it. But making a cool life without death? I wouldn't even know where to start. Does that make sense? I guess so. Okay, that's good to know. Sometimes I think I'm pretty bad at answering these questions. Well, I have another one. Great! I don't suppose you could tell me what the meaning of life is. It's your life. How should I know? No, not my life. All life. You'll need someone more knowledgeable and powerful to answer that. Me? I didn't even create life. Strictly speaking, I just expanded it. You know, started a life myself, saw the lives around me, thought it was awesome, decided to make another world with living dudes in it. I have no idea what it's like to have no life around. I can only assume it's much less awesome. Are we alone in the universe? No, you also have at least 100 billion other galaxies to keep you company. That's not what I meant. Is there any other intelligent life? Well, that depends on how you define intelligent, but I've heard dolphins are pretty smart too. Are there any biological life forms aside from those on Earth? Sure. There are also astronauts at space stations orbiting around Earth. You're just deliberately avoiding the question now. Sorry. Truth be told, I don't know myself. You created this universe and you don't even know that? It's no fun to know everything, right? It's better to discover stuff as you go along. At least that's what I was probably thinking back at the time when I made your universe so freaking huge. Are you saying you can only observe one place at a time? Personally, with my own eyes? Yes, I could, of course. Automate the rest, create algorithms to stand watch in my place and report everything worth noticing. But I always convince myself not to do that. I mean, sometimes I start doing that because I'm just too curious. But then I think how that would take an element of surprise out of my experience, and I manage to stop. But could there be aliens out there? Or are we special? Oh, definitely. I left plenty of opportunities for life to emerge in this universe. After all, that was one of the main reasons to create it. And yes, you are special. So you have no idea what's happening in other places. I have a general idea, of course. Evolution takes time, and there are plenty of signs to notice beforehand. I can skim through a number of galaxies in search of planets with favorable conditions and then check them more closely and frequently. Plus, knowing the initial rules helps. Most of the time, I know what to expect. But there are always ways for your creation to surprise you. I think my methods of search are solid. I discovered Earth long before you guys evolved into Homo sapiens. I can also say that I haven't found anybody else so far. But it's also possible that I missed something, and there's another intelligent life sprawling out there as we speak. So, yeah, no clear answer. Sorry. and I think that's enough questions. You sure? I'm not in any hurry. We can chat till we drop. Not literally, I mean. That would all have a negative impact on the quality of conversation even before we actually drop. We can still chat pretty long, though. Well, it's already fascinating as it is. Well, then I guess it's time to say goodbye. Thanks again for coming, and the best of luck to you, whatever crazy stuff you're about to do next. Aren't you going to ask me now? Ask you what? Whether I believe you or not. It's ultimately not important. Like I said, I don't mind treating it as a thought experiment. But you must be at least curious. I'm always curious, my friend. What I'd really want for you is to always be curious as well. I don't want to force ideas, I want to evoke feelings. If you started to wonder, if you looked at things with new eyes, if I made you excited, even for a little while, then my goal's achieved, and I'm happy. That's very sentimental, but important. The rest is just details. Creators, elevators, you can forget about all this stuff. But your universe? It's right there, man, all around you. And people everywhere are talking about how cool it is. Not just your folks who live inside it, but dudes like me as well. So don't forget that. Your world is wonderful and totally awesome. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Right. Well, I'll be going then. You have logged off chat with God. Well, that was weird, to say the least. Yes, weird is a very mild word to describe the situation. I don't think I could have invented a stranger problem for you even if I needed to. You didn't even say anything about his manner of talking. Sorry, that had to be a surprise. I wanted you to be unbiased, even if it left you somewhat unprepared. You did call him God, though, despite that he himself considered it a misnomer. I don't hear that often, so... Well, I had to stir up your interest as well. I agree we shouldn't hastily label things, but we shouldn't deliberately avoid it either. His chats touch a lot of big questions. There's no going around that. What was with those comedy parts? You mean his penchant for metaphors? His penchant for what he calls metaphors, yes. I don't think the guy really knows what a metaphor is. Your guess is as good as mine. Maybe he has trouble understanding our language and our ways of communication. Or maybe he's just genuinely a quirky guy. Humanity can't be the only ones with all the weirdos, right? Is this even for real? It feels like a complicated April Fool's joke. Well, it's the middle of the summer, and I don't think even I have such a convoluted sense of humor, so... yeah, strange, but definitely real. You did have a conversation with him too, right? Yes, it was pretty similar. I asked just as many questions, but I'm not sure it helped. Yeah, and it was all fascinating and stuff, but what's your angle? I hoped you could help us figure out who he really is. And how am I supposed to do that? Share your thoughts. We can discuss each other's ideas and see where it leads us. Should I assume you don't buy his story? No, I don't want to exclude anything, but there could be so much more behind this. I believe we need to explore other possibilities. Assume he's not who he says and look at the implications. Like what? Well, an obvious question would be, why? Why invent such a weird and elaborate lie? Why try to convince us that it's true? Why talk to us at all? If you want something to happen and have access to superior technology, shouldn't you act, not chat? He must have a specific goal in mind, but he tries to achieve it by inventing fiction and selling it to us as reality. What kind of goal can it be? Sounds like you already have an idea. Sort of, yes. See, you don't change a lot by talking. except for those you talk to. I mean, sure, you can study people, ask the right questions, examine their reactions, but you can also influence them, implant ideas, if you will. And you don't have to do it with every single person, because people could share it with friends and so on. You know how contagious ideas can be, especially in our globalized, interconnected world. From that point of view, chatting is actually a tremendously powerful tool. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? That's another important question. The stakes are quite high, as you imagine, with him being a superior something we can't even detect. If he has malevolent intentions, well, the situation is quite frightening. Or maybe it's neither. Maybe he's too alien to constitute as good or bad. Maybe he doesn't have any goal at all. So what are the facts? Facts are, sadly, almost non-existent. The only thing we know for sure is that we don't know how this guy communicates with us. Like I said earlier, the data just appears on our disks out of nowhere. No trace of any signal, no indication of hacking, nothing. Are you positive? Because that's important. Absolutely. We tried our very best to explain it scientifically, but failed. And considering our reach, that's pretty much equal to humanity trying its best. Well, that's presumptuous. Well, what are the options? Oh, these are limited only by our imagination, and I think we should let it run free. Gods, aliens, computers, godlike alien computers, you name it. Is there even a point in such wild guessing? Well, it's not just guessing. We start with guessing, but then we ask questions. If he's this and not that, what can he want from humanity? What might his goal be? We can test our guess for reasonable motives and internal logic, and then see if it's feasible or not. Another thought experiment, then. Yes, I don't expect us to do serious science here, or serious philosophy for that matter, but that guy wanted us to wonder, so let's wonder. What do you think? Me? I have absolutely no idea. I just go endlessly through every option in my head, unable to say which one looks more promising. It's rather problematic and a bit annoying, to be honest. We spent ages discussing it within the company, and I'm still thirsty for more input, so you can imagine that making it one of your project problems was no brainer. Well, if I had to choose, we'll just go with your gut. If you have to choose one explanation, what would it be? I don't know and I don't care. Someone who's really good at hacking. Maybe one person, maybe a group, but definitely human. Computer, a self-aware conscious one, artificial intelligence. I'm inclined to believe his story, or maybe I'm not, but I'm more interested in what he said, not who he is. I actually like that a lot more than any, set explanation. His message was far more intriguing than what exactly he was, as far as I was concerned. So, actually, I'm inclined to believe his story. Or maybe I'm not, but I'm more interested in what he said, not who he is. I see. And why is that? Well, it's like you said, whether you believe it or not, it's about choosing, it's about thinking, wondering, and imagining. I don't know, this is interesting. This is actually probably going to go in different directions. Well, it's like he said, whether you believe it or not is ultimately not important. It's not about choosing, it's about thinking, wondering, and imagining. Still, don't you think there should be a better, simpler explanation? An explanation that doesn't change the world as we know it? Reality is not about being simple. On the contrary, even simple things become complex if you dig deep enough. Rabbit holes lead to places much more crazy than the holes themselves. But it doesn't change it. It's not relevant to our daily lives, only to our views, and we build our worldviews from a lot of sources. That's right, he did say that. Actually, it's a pretty cool little bit of philosophy. Let's go with that. It's not relevant to our daily lives, only to our views, and we build our worldviews from a lot of sources. It's our own choice how much we let this story affect us. But isn't it dangerous to just accept it and ignore the rest? If he's lying, who knows what might be going on behind the scenes? Well, even if that's true, we won't make it any less dangerous simply by talking. I see your point. I guess I got defensive. The rogue data on our servers, it felt like a challenge to Life Plus and me personally. I had to figure it out, to solve this detective case, only it's not much of a case when you have no solid evidence at all. I can relate to that. Mysteries can be tantalizing. It's not only that, however. If we're to discuss this guy's story and its ideas, the truth is, I kind of dislike it. Any particular reason why? Yes, a couple. I mean, I'm perfectly willing to suspend my disbelief and accept it as the real deal. But if I do that, the implications are... well, it just feels wrong. For example, don't you think the truth should be handed to us on a silver platter? The kind of truth he told us, you mean? Any kind of truth. Every scientific discovery or technological breakthrough must be our own accomplishment. We who live on this planet work hard to understand the world and make it better. And it's been like this since the beginning of time. But now he decided to break it. He just casually told us how our universe came to be. It feels like cheating, undeserved and unsatisfying, and it might prove damaging in the long run. Let's see. Well, it's not like they were working prototypes or correct equations, he just shared general concepts. He still interfered with the flow of our development. Even knowing where to look might be a big head start. This is very kind of reminding me of the Prime Directive on Star Trek. If it makes the world better, does it really matter where it comes from? You're right, it doesn't, but my concern is that it could actually make the world worse. Because, you know, feeling like we're not just leaves on the wind, like we're able to affect things, that hard-earned feeling at the very core of our progress, it can go away again. We can get crushed by the weight of so many worlds, never even hoping to comprehend them. But we can comprehend them. There's nothing superior about other worlds or their inhabitants. They're just a bunch of dudes. That was the whole point of his story. Well, actually, no, I like this other one better. But his message is exactly the opposite. He tries to make us inspired by things around us, not intimidated and paralyzed. Oh, I don't mind his good intentions. I'm simply concerned that it might have the opposite effect. He might not understand how careful one needs to be when sharing ideas under such circumstances. But isn't it our nature to cooperate with others? Yes, but never before have we done it with a superior being. I'm not sure that counts as cooperation. Outside help might be a better term. If he created it all, doesn't he deserve to interfere? No, because he created an isolated system. Define the rules and let it grow, to borrow his own words. It would have been if the universe was designed with outside interference in mind, but it wasn't. So you won't accept any outside help with big questions? What about religions? Religions are not outside help. We choose to have them. Besides, religions are all about believing in what you feel is right, not just something you're told to be right. Ideally, at least. And the other reason? I also don't like how self-centered he encourages us to be. I mean, yes, he talks about looking at this huge world and wondering, but it's also the wrong kind of wondering. How so? For every minute of new ideas, he spends 2 talking about us. How amazing we are, how strong our drive to create is, how many great things we'll achieve. If the entire story is a lie, then he's just lulling us to sleep while executing the real plan behind the scenes. But if it's true, I just can't accept it. This egocentric attitude is what always brings us trouble in the first place. So you'd rather give it to us straight? Say out loud how utterly tiny and inconsequential humanity is? Yes! The sheer audacity of imagining ourselves as the center of the world, or at least a unique part of it, that has to stop. And I know you might call it depressing, but it's not. It's liberating. Why does it always have to be about us? It gets so complicated when it's always about us. What do you mean by that? I mean, it's a vicious cycle when we start to pursue things for our own sake. Not just because it hurts others, but because it hurts us. There's something so dark and insatiable about being preoccupied with your needs. I think the only way to solve it is through the needs of others. But I thought you believed in these things. That we can achieve greatness, that we matter. I do believe in these things, but I also think it's dangerous when people take them for granted. Dangerous to the point of being scary. It didn't work well for us in the past to feel entitled to our greatness. And on the contrary, the world gets better when we help those who aren't doing so great. Doesn't it kind of contradict your previous point, though? Does it? There's a difference between feeling powerful and feeling entitled. I'm sorry if I make it sound confusing, though. I spend a lot of time dwelling on such things, so they end up mixed together a little. I kind of see what she's going for. It's like with great power comes great responsibility. So what exactly is wrong with a little encouraging? The problem is that it's hard to tell between little and too much in this case. His position is so unique and unprecedented, you need to be very subtle about giving humanity any ideas, and he is anything but subtle. It's not really egocentric. He's not talking about individuals, he's talking about the entirety of humanity. Well, we tend to identify with various groups strongly, almost as if us is a continuation of self. It can be a family, a class, a company, or humanity, but there are always them who are being left out. In case of humanity, it might be nature, animals, ecosystems, atmosphere. Egocentric might not be the best word, but you get the idea. Aren't you overestimating his influence on human society? It's just an occasional chat with one person at a time, after all. On the contrary, I think it's he who underestimates that. In our interconnected society, any personal chat can scale up to an audience of millions. Ideas you planted grow and affect people in unexpected ways. Before you know it, human culture itself has changed, and you can't say how much, and you can't undo it either. I actually agree with that. So basically you worry that his motivational speeches will do more harm than good. Yes, exactly. Even though my points might look the same on the outside, the details are important. Or do you think it's nitpicking? Am I overthinking stuff? Is it wrong to criticize? No, but you actually made some pretty good points. Thank you, I appreciate that. Still, I can't help but to think about other possibilities. Maybe he's lying after all. I feel like our conversation could have spiraled into completely different territories and led to some wildly different guesses. But in the end, they're all just guesses. There's still so many things we can not only wonder about. Well, there are no answers, really. Only choices. Spot on as always, Michael. And hey, thanks for today. I appreciate all your input and cooperation. Well, you're welcome. I appreciate the experience as well. So, back to sleep, I guess? I hope this one will be even better. And it just might. That's the right attitude. Hopefully the reality will follow suit. Good night. That was a bit strange. Oh, do we got more stuff? More fruits? Magical banana. Banana reminds me of yellow. Yellow reminds me of the sun. The sun reminds me of infinite cosmos. infinite cosmos reminded me of my utter insignificance. My utter insignificance reminds me of my existential crisis. Hey! Eat all the fruit. Okay, I'm actually really curious before we check the news there. Elevator go up. Elevator stop. And there she is. Okay. Well, let's head back. We will check the computer on floor 27. And I assume that we'll probably have some new news here on the net. Scanning biometrics. Loading user settings. Welcome. Good morning, Dave. Ooh. We're unemployed, but that's okay. Ooh. Full-time citizens on the ever-growing power of corporations. Alright, let me go ahead and browse these real quick. If there's anything really interesting, we'll read it. One sec. Okay, I have some really interesting articles in here. I can go ahead and sum most of them up, though. The first one is We're Unemployed, But That's Okay by Natalie Seafridge. What this talks about is society kind of going into that Star Trek vibe of everything being automated, and therefore unemployment basically getting wiped out because it's getting to the point that the basic needs of humanity, health care, food, clothing, and so on, would be so cheap to produce that it could all be free. All the bare necessities could just be given and money used for like pure luxuries kind of thing. Kind of going into a semi kind of Star Trek thing where money is not needed in order to survive, I guess, if that makes sense, and all the complications therein, the pros and the cons. Right here is full-time citizens on the ever-growing power of corporations. This is probably the most interesting one because it talks about how corporations have become so powerful. They're almost countries in themselves, and it talks about the people that are going across the entire world working for these corporations and not really paying attention to the sovereignty of other nations and the challenges that goes with this, because they realize now that the corporations are there and pretty much there to stay. So it's kind of going towards Shadowrun at the exact same time. This one talks about 27 church buildings across Italy being reopened and the Catholic Church basically reclaiming lost grounds and making the church more accessible to people. No dress code, allowing animals and robots, and becoming a more friendly face, bringing a more friendly kind of impression and change of thought. And this invokes opinions strong on both sides. There are some people who are like, no, we need to stay traditional in terms of the church, and then some people who are like, well, we don't need churches at all, you know? Very similar to, it's kind of like if you go on Twitter every time Pope Francis says anything, kind of the exact same response, some very pro, some very con. And then you have Tasteful Museums Group, which is talking about a coffee exhibition where people can try coffees from across history, and that's kind of cool, just showing how culture has changed. Now there's food, there's tasting museums, which is kind of cool. Which is fascinating to me, because if you ever go online and see how Turkish coffee is made, that's something I would actually love to try. Good deal. Looks like we only have one newspaper left. I hope I approached that problem correctly. I have no idea, but I guess we will find out, guys. We'll go ahead and talk to her at the beginning of the next episode. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you liked the episode, please leave a like down below. Subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, that'd be a big help. And we'll see you next time. Later days, everyone.